So with our lovely Miss M, ready cuteness? So I'm just having her drag her leash for now, but I will pick it up in just a moment. We're gonna practice a little bit with some of those leave-its. So I know that you guys had mentioned that at times when she grabs onto household items she's not supposed to have, she does seem to struggle. I'm just making sure, oh yeah, my mic is on. She does seem to struggle with at times sort of relinquishing it, or there have been moments where there has been some resource guarding. Oh my goodness. So when it comes to our little lady, just like with most puppies, grabbing onto items can be challenging because for puppies or even adult dogs, when they grab onto something, a lot of times they're exploring their world through their mouths, the way little humans in the beginning start to also just put everything into their mouths. Obviously, humans thankfully don't run into too much resource guarding, though we do at times covet our own items and don't want to share. So for our gorgeous gal, remember that how we deal with the situation when she does grab something at times she shouldn't have, it will help or hinder the setup. So what I mean by that is if we become the end of fun or the ones that take items away, we start to be the bringer of the bad. So I'm not saying I want our puppies to go ahead and choke on an acorn or go eat the dangerous item or to go consume something that is non-edible. But if, for example, we make it into a very big deal when the puppy does grab for things, that might even turn into a moment where your puppy might think you like the behavior. So what I mean by that is, let's say your puppy grabs a sock and now everybody in the household notices the puppy grabbing for the no item. And now we go and chase the puppy and make it into a big deal, like, oh my gosh, the puppy grabbed the sock. And then we do the keep away game or the gingerbread man, you'll never catch me now situation. And your puppy starts to think, gee, this was the greatest day of my life. Everybody in the household came to play with me and we played keep away and chase and it was a lot of fun. But then at the end, if there is a moment where they get cornered and trapped and we try to swipe the thing, we keep reinforcing that when we get to you, the thing gets taken away. So I know we've dived into how find its can be a great behavior to work on in the beginning for many, many different things. So if, let's say, our puppy were to grab for something they shouldn't and we didn't do the greatest job sometimes baby proofing or puppy proofing the zone, I would recommend to have a couple treat stations in your home. So you could then go and throughout the day practice. You might say her name, you grab one of those snacks, you feed her for that name recognition. You could, for example, like let's pretend she was off playing with one of her toys, do your little pause of interrupter and feed her for doing her check-in. So throughout the day, remember, we want to practice skills we'd like her to know how to do before we need them in the oh no moment. Because if the only time we go and practice with her is when she's failing or having a hiccup, then she might think that's the only moment you guys may pay attention, and that might be the behavior she has to do more often to get that attention. So I would highly recommend is have those treat stations, practice throughout the day to capture or reinforce behaviors you'd like to have happen again. View every behavior or skill or, again, something you'd like to have her want to do again as having a bank account. So if those bank accounts are getting some pretty nice deposits, she's going to want to do that behavior again later in the future. Yes, so beautiful little kissy noise, great little positive interrupter to regain her attention from the environment. So let's say we're going to practice, nice job, a little bit with her leave-its. So leave-its are going to be items that are always off limits. So I know some folks have done in the past leave it as in leave it alone and then I'm going to let you go grab it. I find that for me, it seems a bit confusing. Why at one point can the leave it be off limits and the next moment be okay to go grab or play with? I prefer to use my weight, and then my dog would be waiting and I'd either throw the item or plop the item down and then have them go grab the thing. But otherwise, if I say leave it, it means it's always off limits. We're not going to play with it. It could be dangerous and we're going to leave it alone. If you have done leave its as in wait a moment and then you plop the leave it item down and then let them go get it, your pup is going to start to assume that leave its are something you play, engage with, or consume. So let's say the next time I drop pills and I said leave it, the puppy might jump the gun and be like, you know what, you normally let me always eat my leave-its, I'm going to go eat it now. And that's where it can be a bit more confusing to the babes because at one point they're being told fine and the next moment maybe hold back, but then go get it. So when I work leave-its are always off limits. So when we go to practice, I like to always start off working with my leave it cue with my pups on gear. So that way view your leash and your harness as your training wheels for in the beginning when your babe doesn't know exactly how to work something, but also to prevent hiccups or rehearsal of the unwanted behavior or skill. So let's say with my little lady, I've got her leash on. She's been kind of wearing it and practicing. I'm going to grab for one of my household no-no items. So let's say I'm going to use this little plastic bag that had some sad little acorns in it, which now are mostly powdered acorns because they've fallen onto the floor a few too many times. So let's say I'm going to be doing this all by myself. So I have my puppy, I'm in my kitchen, my living room, whatever little spot you have available. Start with your puppy on gear. You may even want to warm up with some previous skills first just to get in the groove. Let's say you're going to plop the random or the item that you've chosen as your leave it on the ground. I would recommend that if you're going to toss it before your puppy goes to run and then ricochets off the gear, I like to do a little find it, then plant my leave it item off to the side so my puppy didn't chase the leave it and then go bombard themselves on the equipment. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and approach my leave it item enough where she notices it, but not so close that she can grab it. So I'm going to go ahead, and once Miss Little M is ready, we're going to start off by just moving around the environment. She's just trying to find all the crumbs she may have missed earlier. So I have a snack at ready in my hand so I can be ready for my timing. Right here, I'm going to go leave it. Yes. And what I'm feeding the puppy for is for disengagement from the leave it item. So right here, I just did my little positive interrupter just to regain her attention. We're going to go ahead and go towards our leave it item. So I'm only getting close enough where she'll notice it. Right here, leave it. And if, let's say, she doesn't respond, Maple. Yes. So you could either try name recognition. She finds, I think that the kissy noise has been very reinforcing from my end to her. So she maybe feels that the kissy noise is a great thing to check in with. So right here, leave it. Yes. And I'm going to feed for that. In the beginning, if your puppy tends to pull and the pulling on the gear is the reason behind their checking back in, I would recommend to try as they're getting more in the groove is feed even more so when there's no pressure. So what I mean by that right there, yes. So I'm going to jackpot her a couple little tidbits for doing such a good job passing by the leave it item and not going towards it or pulling into the gear. So again, I'm using my food just to lure her in the beginning to keep her by my side. I'm also feeding for this lovely loose leash walking as we're practicing. So you could then again be feeding for all of these great little moments. She's offering you behavior that you like to capture those moments and feed for it. So right there, yes. So she saw the leave it item and she decided it was cooler to come check in with me than the item. So let's say we're doing a few passes in this direction. I like to rotate and have them practice from all different directions and all different angles, moving towards or around the leave it item. So here we are again, meandering. Yes, I'm going to feed her again for not going and checking out the thing. Nice. Beautiful. So again, sometimes she doesn't always want her kibble. I did mix in kibble with some of her training treats. So as she says, sometimes the kibble is just not as cool. Nice. So again, as we're meandering, good job, cuteness. So we'll go near our no-no right here, leave it. If let's say, yes, let's say we got a little too close and maybe that was a little too hard for her, you can always tweak the criteria or change up the dynamic depending on how easy the setup might be for your puppy. Oh my goodness. So at certain points, maybe certain approaches are easier than others. And as you're practicing, maybe she does better from this side. Right there, yes. But let's say, oh no, oopsie poopsie, I got way too close to my leave it item, and let's say my puppy goes and checks it out, leave it, yes. And I might do a nice big find it to reinforce the puppy for doing a great job ignoring the thing. So when you go to practice, definitely use household items that are not too overstimulating. So if your puppy's been really struggling with your sandal or your slippers, remember that those items shouldn't be out anyway for the puppy to keep grabbing and rehearsing that grabbing for no-no items is fun or reinforcing from her perspective. So remember, for a lot of dogs, they explore with their mouths, but especially for puppies, they get a little confused as to what item could be a toy versus not a toy. So here's our lovely leave it item there. Yes. Feed for that. Very good. Nice. Ready? She's like, that was delicious. She's like picking out the kibble that she doesn't always want. Good job. Ready? So right here, feed for that lovely little kissy noise check-in. And don't worry, if she drops it, no big deal. So as we go around this no-no item, we definitely want to start off with something that would be safe for her to try. So right there, yes. Nice. Good job. Ready? Find it. So when she's practicing, you'll notice how I didn't grab like a small scrunchie, or I didn't grab something that was very little. And the reason behind that is some puppies have gotten in the habit of gulping things, sadly. And we may find that for some of the puppies, if they're really having a hard time, you want to start off with items that are safe. So even if they were to grab a hand towel, they hopefully can't swallow that whole. If you're dealing with some pretty, harder setups, like let's say we're already dealing with some pretty intense resource guarding, or we're dealing with gulping behavior, obviously reach out, because those are going to be a little bit of a different setup than your typical starting point. So remember, we will work it based off of where the puppy's at and where their comfort range may lie, but also where their success has been. So right there, yes. Good job. So right now I'm just practicing technically like off leash because she's just dragging it. So if this was way too hard, we would start off on leash so she can't go and get in the habit of grabbing the leave it item. But right now, this is how you'd end up starting to practice with no items, and you'd work where you could pass by the leave it, yes. And you start building in that being near it doesn't equal you have to go check it out, or that should be the item to play with. So if leave-its have already been you squealing in the background as she goes to play with it, it's no longer really a leave it. Now it's a drop it, give, or out behavior where you're asking for your puppy to let go of the thing. So when we're practicing right now, this plastic bag is not as intriguing because we've already done several loops around it and we've practiced that disengaging from that is the part of why we're getting this lovely reinforcement from me. Nice. Good job. So again, we're going to try and pass by our leave it again. Nice. And we might just even walk even close to it. Ready? She's like, I'll step on it, whatever works. Nice job. So let's say, okay, she's been getting really good with this bag. We'll do a little find it. I'm going to grab a different household item, so maybe a paper product, and we'll try that instead. So remember, whenever you change up a piece of the dynamic, like this is the new leave it item, I would go back to the beginning starting point where I was holding gear, building up, moving around it, and eventually you could drop the leash if she's comfortable. If she's not doing so hot, keep her on the leash for now, because that's going to be, again, your training wheels for when she doesn't quite know how to rock that behavior or skill set. So right here, she did a very nice job sitting. Go ahead and feed her for that lovely response. Again, so she doesn't go and rush the item. I'm going to do a little find it, plop the no item out and about, and hopefully that maybe wasn't too far away, but maybe I'll just bring it a little closer. There we go. And then we'll go back into working her on her equipment. So she's just doing a couple little find its. Nice. So to start off, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to pass by this other item now. Nice. So again, you'll see that I tend to feed the puppy on the side that they're going to be on. Here's the find it she lost earlier. So you got to clean up. So again, right there, we might go leave it. Yes, and feed for that. Good girl. Nice. So I'm tending to keep my rate of reinforcement rather high because I want my puppy to find that there's value in trying all these weird things that from her perspective don't really matter. So remember, none of these skills have value to your puppy right there. Yes. So I don't always get the chance to say the leave it cue because sometimes I'm blabbing. So right here, leave it. Yes. If let's say she did disengage and she looked at it, but then instead decided to leave it alone, you could simply just mark that moment, go YES, and then feed for that moment where she disengaged from the leave it item. Ready? So Maple, she's like, hold on, I heard a funny noise. Oh my goodness. So right here, we're gonna go near the item. Oh my goodness, chewing. Yes. I'm gonna feed again. And now we're gonna maybe try from this side. Just move the leash out of her way. Nice, good girl. So let's say she was struggling. Remember that the closer you are to the item, the harder the skill will be for her. So the more difficult it will become, the closer she gets. The further away from something, the easier or more attainable this new behavior or skill set can be for them. So distance is typically your friend, especially in the beginning, from many different venues. So, but let's say we get really close, we almost touch, again, leave it. Yes, good girl. So you'll have to excuse me, every once in a while my voice is very tickly because of the allergy season right now is pretty hardcore with all this pollen. There's the snack she lost. Good girl. So I would go ahead and let's say I'm going to go towards my leave it item again. We're going to see if I can pass by it, maybe walk really nearby. Nice. That was beautiful. Feed her for that little response. What a smart girl. So you can see that as we're practicing, a little saliva, as we're practicing, we are slowly building up the difficulty as she's doing well. I don't start with my puppy off leash, never working a leave it with household items she's been failing with, and then squeal leave it in the distance as she doesn't even know what leave it is. So make sure you're showing them what you mean by the skill or the cue that you're using so your puppy can figure it out without you sort of getting upset or them failing at the same time. So right now, we're just passing by the leave it and we're feeding. So again, just meandering. She's like, oh, I noticed the leave it, the find it on the floor. So every once in a while she hears my little one's little player and she's hearing the noises coming from it. Nice. So right now we're just practicing also a little bit of loose leash walking as we're just meandering around the no-no item. So right there, positive interrupter, feed her for that little check-in, and then continue on our merry way. So again, we're going to try again to walk by this lovely leave it item. Nice. Good job. So remember too that when practicing at home, if you're finding she only does well in certain settings, it could be that we're not keeping our end consistent while the environment is constantly changing. So if the only time you are wearing your training gear and her training gear is when you're working on a skill set only in that moment, then that means that at times when your puppy is off gear or you don't have your equipment on, your puppy may not realize that could also be a training moment. So I, in the beginning, like to keep myself and the setup consistent while changing things around the environment in which we're practicing. If that's going immensely beneficial, I then lower the difficulty in the environment and try to change up the way I might be looking. So I don't have my treat pouch on, but I do have snacks somewhere tucked away in pockets. She might be sometimes off of her leash, on her leash, off of her harness, sometimes wearing whatever she would normally tend to wear at home. And then you rotate through those moments and can I still get behavior? So right here, leave it. Nice. Good girl. So if let's say she hadn't done the leave it and she was having a harder moment, I would have seen, could I maybe get her to do a check-in with her name or maybe the kissy noise? But the fact that she's not going and swiping the item means that now she's kind of understanding that there's a valued situation in doing this instead of that. So there's where you kind of want to set them up for success. The pieces on the floor that she's not going for is sadly her kibble right now. She says the other snacks are much cooler. So for homework's sake for our little lady, make sure that you're thinking to yourselves, have I actually shown my puppy what I would like them to do instead? Or am I trying to work this exercise when I already needed her to understand how to do it? So I know we've mentioned, like, if you don't know how to drive, I can't set you up in the Bugatti and send you out on the highway and hope we all make it. We're going to start off with the Honda Civic in the parking lot, and we're going to go nice and easy and explain what we're working on while learning how to drive. And typically the driving instructor also has their own brakes on their side. So there's going to be chances for her to hopefully be successful and change up previous skills or previous learned behavior through going a few steps back to then take a few good steps forward. But remember, training is not linear. So if you're not getting instant perfection and instant change, that's normal. But I would highly recommend is also think of training as not linear, but you're not looking for perfection, you're looking for progress. So you want to see where maybe there's a bounce back where usually there would be no response back to you from the environment or a trigger or a noise or whatever it might be. So right here, a little distraction. We might go again, Maple, come. Yes, what a good girl. And see if we can get these little bounce backs. If there was moments where I completely lost her, I would go and help her. I wouldn't keep asking for the same behavior over and over if she's non-responsive or doesn't get the concept at the moment. But our lovely Miss M did a very good job. So we'll give her a little rest period, and then we'll rotate through our ladies again, and then just keep rocking and rolling with these lovely girls. But Miss M, for her very first day at Doggy Day School, did splendidly. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a little find it, and then I'll grab my little no-no item and get it out of range. Ready? Find it. So that way we, again, can disengage from the item and make it easier to put it away so we could play another time. Ready? There it is. She's like, I'm not as good as some of the other babes for their find its, but she'll get much more fluid with the find its too. But little Miss M is doing a very, very nice job.